What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new edition of Holding Court here on the First Day Hoops Report YouTube channel. I'm, of course, First Day Hoops Report founding editor and Holding Court host Chris Stevens. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there. Of course, yes, basketball season has officially ended on the high school level. I see players starting to post their AAU schedule, so it's like, y'all even get a break? Because literally the season ended a week ago. There's still, some we just had the season ended 2 weeks ago, but then of course we had the blue gold games down in Smyrna, and of course there is the Delaware versus Maryland basketball challenge down in Cape Henlopen next Saturday, March 30th. If you can get down there, I highly suggest you do. It'll be at Cape Henlopen High School, and it'll be some of Delaware's best playing some of Maryland's best. So we'll get to see how our kids fare against kids from out of state, which is always nice. But yeah, wanted to talk to you all about a couple of things. Of course, the first state, of course, the all-state teams came out this week. First thing on Monday afternoon. Then, of course, there was a couple of things, a couple of notes items from DIAA that we must discuss as we head into this off-season for high school basketball. And before we get started with any of that, all the contact information, our social media handles, our email address, our website, all of that will be in the description below. So if you want to keep up with us, if you want to provide some feedback, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything that's discussed on this channel, or even if you just want to help First Day Hoops Report get on solid ground from a financial perspective, because again, we are still looking for advertisers. So I'm putting the call out for advertisers now for the 2024-25 college and high school basketball season. So if you have a business, if you have what is it? A business or I can't remember. A business or a skill or a trade or anything that you want to plug within reason, mind you, because I'm not just going to sit here and promote anything for the sake of bringing in ad dollars. But if you have a business to where you want to advertise with us, or you want to sponsor something like our weekly honor roll or a game of the week, you're more than welcome to do so. All the contact information will be in the description below. All right. Okay. All right. First things first, we'll get to All-State. And there was some interesting feedback about it. For the most part, most people agreed on Boys and Girls Player of the Year. And we'll start with the girls because obviously, Gigi Banks was, the Player of the Year. There's no mistaking that by any measure. Well, honestly, I had her and Erica Huggins, 1 and 2 on my ballot, and I wrestled with that for about 45 minutes, just, thinking about, okay, we know Gigi's great. We know Ursula's probably going to win the state championship. But that, if you take Erica Huggins off of that St. Elizabeth team, and that's no disrespect to anybody else on that team that played, they were just fairly young. But if you take Erica Huggins off that team, there's no way that team wins 18 games. Like, she literally was, the old to paraphrase Curtis Mayfield, she was mama, she was daddy, she was homeboy in the alley. Like, she literally just did everything for that team in 2024. And of course, it has earned her a scholarship to Division I Delaware State University, which I'm very excited to see Erica at the next level. And I'm also very excited that remember last week when I said that the smartest thing that Delaware State University could do on a women's basketball perspective was to take the interim tag off of Jasmine Turner's name and name her the official full-time head coach? They did that yesterday. So I don't know a lot, but, I know a little bit. So Coach Turner's done a phenomenal job because that program was in straight disarray, from the previous coach. And she, when she kind of took over midway through last year because, the coach wasn't, showing. But, that's the thing. But, yeah, ever since Coach Turner took over, it seems like the vibes have been better. The play has been better, obviously, because even though they were 8-20 this year, it was the most games they had won in 5 years. And this was with a, cobbled together team. Like, this is going to be the first offseason that Coach Turner and Coach Sherelle Dennis, who, of course, we all know from around here, played at Christiana, played at Lincoln, was an assistant at Appo, Archmere, Newark Charter, was a head coach at Newark Charter. And, they're gonna go around. They're gonna get good players that are gonna come in and fit Delaware State. They've already got one. They already got one of the best homegrown players in the state. They got Erica Huggins. So, and they only lose 2 seniors. And it's important to note that one of those seniors was third-team All-MEAC and a former Hodson standout, Janiyah Perkins Jackson. Of course, we all know Janiyah went out to finish her high school career in California. She played some JUCO ball out there, some D2 ball out there, came back for her last year of eligibility and made a Division I all-conference team. If that's not proof that if you stick to your goals and stick with your hopes and dreams and good things will happen, I don't know what is. So Janiyah deserves a ton of credit for seeing the process through all the way through till the end. But yeah, back to Allstate. Yeah, Erica and Gigi easily the first two all. Well, actually Taylor too. So Gigi, Taylor, and Erica were just like the three that you could easily just like not even pencil in. You could magic marker in for Allstate. Just Gigi, States. Taylor. There you go. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was kind of interesting that a lot of folks didn't. I'm not exposing ballots here. I can only talk about my ballot. But my first team was Gigi, it was Erica, it was Taylor, and it was Reagan Robinson from Woodbridge and Sydney Hilliard from AI DuPont. Those were my first teamers. And that's no disrespect to the girls that made it because Speedy was very good. And again, if you take Tyler Edwards off of Sanford, they're not as good as they were. And if there was a DPOY, I think Tyler would have won it this year because she was literally strapped up to the other team's best player every time and made them work every time. So, Tyler deserves a ton of credit for that. And, first team All-State ain't a bad consolation prize, in lieu of winning the state championship. But, that my top five was Gigi, Erica Taylor, Reagan Robinson, and Sydney Hilliard because, yeah, people are going to get on me like, yo, you really got a thing for public schools. And it's like, no. Well, maybe I do, but at the same time, I saw Reagan Robinson affect the game by herself. In early college, no, they weren't going to be world beaters, but they were Woodbridge's closest competition for the Henlopen South. And Reagan went into that game that I saw down at early college, which used to be Wesley College, and just literally affected that game all by her lonesome. And Sid was just a perfect redemption story because of what happened to her at St. E's and different things of that nature. And I know she tried to transfer to AI last year. Imagine if AI had her last year with Mamai Trader and Kamani Woods. Ooh, man, that would have been awesome. That would have been a dream team, buddy. But the transfer thing. We'll talk about that new transfer rule in a minute. Don't get me wrong. We're still on wrong. We're definitely going to talk about that. But yeah, I think for the most part, the All-State teams for the girls, I felt like went to the letter. You saw Gigi and Taylor earn first team All-State because they were the best players on the best team. Erica Huggins was the best player on a team that probably needed her to be the best player, and she showed up every night. And of course, Speedy was Caravel's lightning rod, and Tyler Edwards was definitely the heart and soul of that Sanford team. So can't go wrong with that first team, honestly. Second team or third team either. And honorable mention was pretty solid as well. Boys side, I think it's interesting that I got to put this into perspective that those of us who have ballots, that means us in the media and the coaches, we are required to submit our ballots before the boys and girls semifinals. So we can't include the Final Four and the championship game into bodies of work. If we could, then we'd have a very interesting conversation about who won Boys Player of the Year. And that's not to take anything away from Aiden Tobias. Tremendous young man, tremendous ball player. I think he's going to do great things at Temple. I absolutely do. Because, he's got the skill package. He's got the size. He's a D1 player all the way. Make no mistake about it. But if we included the Final Four, I think him and Darrell Little Jr. probably split the award at best. At worst, I think. Like you can't literally you couldn't go wrong with either kid, honestly, because they both were the best players on the best teams in the state. And I think the sentimental factor would have won for Dover, for Darrell and Dover if we were doing this after the tournament. Because again, Dover before March 9th, had the most state tournament appearances without a state championship. And we've been playing this boys state tournament since 1967. That's before I was born. A lot of, the current kids' parents were born. Shucks, some of y'all's grandparents if we keeping it a buck. But yeah, Dover's been in this thing a long time and they've had some heartbreak. The 2020 pandemic Final Four, we'll never know, of course, how that would have turned out. But to see that Dover team celebrate as much as they did, and Darrell Little obviously was the best player on the floor that night, him and Denham Perkins both. But Darrell Little missed his first 8 shots in the championship game and said, you know what? I don't care. I'm still shooting. Ended up with 31. Shoot or shoot, man. Since we could only go on, the first 2 rounds of the tournament, first 2 or 3 rounds of the tournament, excuse me, and the regular season, Aiden Tobiason was the best player on the best team. So that's how you quantify that. And I think first team was pretty solid. I think we all had the same first team for the most part, which was Aiden, Darrell, Kareem Thomas, Jalen Horsey. Shucks, who else made first team? I don't feel like pulling it up. And this is gonna. Matter of fact, let me do that now. That's the beauty of being able to, record this while you put together, a show. And I'm not editing this because I've had a long week. I've been covering black college sports, but every black college basketball team that was in the national tournament, we've been working on that. So forgive me if I forgot who else was first team All-State. Denham, yeah. So yeah, the first 5, no disagreements with any of these. Aiden Player of the Year, Darrell Little Jr., Kareem Thomas, Jalen Horsey, Denham Perkins. Can't go wrong with that. That's a 5 that will give a 5 from Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland, DMV fits. I firmly believe that. Only thing that's missing is a little bit of size. But I guess if you put Aiden as like a small, we're kind of in an era of positionless basketball anyway. Because think about the bigs in this state. Can you name like legitimate centers? Because we don't have that many 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" kids. We just don't. We have a lot of 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" tweeners. And that's nothing to be ashamed of because how many 7-footers, just grow on trees? When I was growing up, the tallest player in the state, I want to say was, who was it? I think it was Will Sheridan came after me because I graduated in '99. Will Sheridan graduated from Glasgow. Not Glasgow, Sanford in 03. So his bunk came after me, but he was the tallest player in the state when I was in college. So he was like 6'9", 6'10". But I think the tallest player when I was in high school, I think may have been 6'7", and I can't remember who it was. But Delaware is always, one of our nicknames is a small wonder. We've always been a small state. We just haven't had that many bigs. The big prior to that, I think, was Mike Brown at Howard, and that was in the early 1980s. So, we just don't have, we set 6'10", 6'11", 7-foot kids just don't grow on trees in this state. They don't. And if they do, they probably leave. Because Jalen Duran, of course, who now is playing for the Detroit Pistons, was at Gunning Bedford through 8th grade and didn't play a minute of high school ball here in Delaware. We'll talk about why that happened in a minute, or what could have led to that happening. But, yeah, I feel like first team All-State, I think All-State for the most part was solid right down the middle. You can make a few cases that you might pull a kid here and there, pull a kid there, switch some places or not. But most of all, I feel like the 60 kids that the DSBA, Delaware Sports Writers and Broadcast Associations, and the coaches, again, coaches. We ask y'all to fill these ballots out too, man. So when y'all don't return ballots, it's out of our hands. We just telling you the truth. I'm just telling you the truth. I can't speak for anybody else, but we just telling it like it. I'm telling it like it is. If y'all don't fill out the ballots, it ain't too much we can do. And again, as I said in the last week's episode, and I'll say it again because I didn't clip it last week, but I'm going to clip it and put it on the Instagram feed so everybody can see it. Once again, we're fully aware that coaches and athletic directors teach too and are educational professionals and are super busy. But there are kids who are sports nerds, like myself. Like I played maybe 10 minutes my senior year of football at Howard High School with football. I wasn't very good, which is why I only played about 10 minutes the entire season. But I loved to keep stats. So being a sports nerd, ended up being a journalist, which is going to be part of my trajectory. It was written for me. And I feel like there are a lot of kids who may not be athletes, but love sports and love to get in on the ground floor. So, once again, the solution from Chris Stevens, the FirstStateHoopsReport. This ain't coming from nobody else. It's coming from me. Have one of these kids, or several of these kids, if it requires it, to fill out entirely your website for sports box scores so we can have a better idea of how good these kids are playing so we can put these ballots together. Make it palatable for them. Give them a grade. Give them a letter. Like a varsity letter. Give them a letter of recommendation for a job or college or something. make it palatable for them to do the work. I mean, and these kids will probably do the work anyway because they just love sports. So identify the kids in your school that may not be athletes, but still have a vested interest in the administrative side of sports. Had them fill out the box scores so we can get a better idea of who to put on these teams. That's all we ask. That's all we ask. Okay, I'm done. All right, now on to the news of the week from the Delaware Interscholastic Association of Athletics. Was it Athletic Association? I don't know. I mean, I'm in the doghouse with them anyway. It don't make a damn bit of difference to me. But anyway, there was a post on Instagram put out by DIA that they wanted to have people fill out a survey with regards to NIL, which of course is name, image, and likeness. I posted something about it on the Instagram feed this week. You can go check that out whenever you get a chance. But I think it's important to have this segue into the transfer rules thing because sports in the 21st century, people have really sort of commodified it at every level. I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, ESPN has betting, analysts now. And remember, the greatest hitter in the history of Major League Baseball is not in the Hall of Fame because he gambled. And now, the one of the most popular players in current Major League Baseball is under investigation for having his interpreter be his bookie. It's strange it's funny how money changed situations. Word to Lauryn Hill. But I think for the NIL thing from a high school perspective, and I saw, when I posted the screenshot of the DIA thing on First State Hoopsreport's IG, I got a lot of comments about, how only certain players will benefit and how only certain school systems will benefit. And that's probably true. It probably is true. And to hear that DIA is not considering a collective to figure this out, it really doesn't lend itself any credence or doesn't dissuade the notion that private schools are just going to, try to complete a whole sweep of not just education, but, sports as well. And that, to me, sets a bad precedent. And I think I think, a lot of the NIL stuff, yes, it is misunderstood. It's not, a free pass to just, create whatever you want to create or, pay people whatever you want to pay them or kids get paid or whatever. But I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot involved in it. And I give DIA credit for putting a survey out there so they could get a wide range of opinion because you're going to get one. Like, there's not going to be 15 people that have the same thought about NIL. There's not 15 people that are going to say this is great. There's not 15 people that are going to say this is terrible. There's not 15 people that are going to say that this is only for private schools. And there's not 15 people that are going to say, okay, well, what about my kid? Because people are going to have so many different views on it that DIA is going to get a hodgepodge, a gumbo, if you will, all these different stews and assorted seasonings about, NIL. So be very interesting to see. They are accepting survey submissions through April 1st, which is not this Monday coming, but the following Monday. So you have an entire week to figure that out. I will post the information in the description below. And which leads me to the second bit of news of the week from DIA, and that, of course, is the pending new transfer rule. Of course, the new transfer rule, as reported by Sean Green over at WDEL, is that you will that kids transferring for the first time, like from 8th grade to 9th grade or whatever, will get a free transfer. But anybody after that likely faces a 30-day, not a suspension, but I don't like calling it a ban either because it just sounds real ominous. But maybe it's a ban or maybe a 30-day grace period because I'm going to compare this to professional wrestling. And if you don't like professional wrestling, you won't understand it. But if you at least understand what the point I'm trying to convey here, you'll get it. There is, even back when it was WWF versus WCW. Now it's WWE versus AEW. Wrestlers or on-screen talent that leave a promotion, either one of those promotions, are likely held to a 90-day non-compete clause, which means you cannot sign with another organization for 90 days. So, to compare it like this, say a kid from, I don't know, say a kid from Sal's transfers to a William Penn or something. If they then they wouldn't be able to play their sport for 30 days. And that is a long time because high school sports seasons do not last long. Remember, football's about 15 weeks tops. Basketball is 12 or 13. So you're talking about losing a quarter of your season. So, and even in the spring, because spring doesn't last very long either. Because I mean, yes, it just started, but baseball, softball, soccer, lacrosse, and all that started this week. But I'm gonna tell you right now, May 1st is coming quick, and that's usually around the time the season starts to end, and teams are starting to get ready for state tournaments or what have you. So if you're talking about a kid that transferred this year and wouldn't be able to play until April 12th or 13th or whatever, that's still a long way. That's maybe 2 or 3 weeks of regular season activity. And for upperclassmen, every minute is precious because that's tape or not tape or film or video, whatever you want to call it, that you can get to these college coaches so you can see so they can get a good view, a good idea of who you are as an athlete and if they want to offer you or even just go ahead and sign you. So 30 days is not a short grace period. And I hope the one thing they don't enact is a postseason ban, because why ban kids from the postseason? And this goes back to everything that I've said several times over on this channel. And once again, I will repeat until I'm blue in the face. But again, that's going to be pretty difficult to do. So I have plenty of time and room to say. If the educational playing field was leveled, you wouldn't have to worry about these kids transferring. You simply wouldn't. Because here's the thing, and this is not me, casting aspersions or firing shots or being shady at anybody with money. Because, most of the time, people, you work hard for your money, cool. But, there's a world where private schools can get multi-million-dollar donations for new facilities. And then there's the world where public schools have to beg the residents in their district for a brief tax raise so they can make sure the kids have books. So some kids can, so they can have heat, so they can have, lunch, or in some cases, upgrade athletic facilities. So there are two different worlds here. And I want people to understand that it didn't have to be this way. But the Department of Education in the state honestly dropped the ball. Because when Wilmington Charter opened in 1999, I'll never forget it, because they announced Wilmington High School was being transitioned out in 1997. I was 16 years old. And even though I didn't have as much information as I do now, but I knew even then, knowing the history of, public education in the state of Delaware, Brown versus Board, DSEG and all of that, because I was one of those nerdy kids that just studied stuff and, listened to my elders about a bunch of stuff, which is why people are like, Chris, why do you know so much about so much? And it's like, I'm a geek. What can I do? But yeah, when I realized that Wilmington Charter was opening up, and this isn't like anything against the Wilmington Charter community. But this is just like, it's a symptom of a larger problem, because a lot of charter schools started cropping up after that. And it's like, okay, these folks can come along with bank funds and say, okay, we want to open a school. We want to do it our way. We'll only accept certain kids. We'll only allow certain kids in. And once you start commodifying and privatizing education, then you have a real problem on your hands. And that's pretty much what happened. That's pretty much why the Christiana School District is a dead district walking. Why Brandywine, as rich as it is still struggling. Why the people, in Red Clay is struggling. And if Votech wasn't subsidized by the state, hello? It's right there for you. It's black and white. So if people cared more about public education and making sure that Christina, Red Clay, and Brandywine had the same resources as, the private schools and, parochials and all of that, then these kids wouldn't be transferring left and right. It's really that simple. if there's a level playing field, then there's no need to leave. But I mean, parents and athletes are going to look for the best opportunities for them. And I don't agree with a 30-day, grace period or non-compete or whatever you want to call it. I just don't think it helps anybody. I mean, yeah, you can get mad at the kids for transferring, but the anger should really be with the system that forced these transfers in the first place. That's really the bottom line. So you can be mad that these kids are transferring. I mean, and I'm still waiting to see this rash of transfers that people just claim are happening every single day for sports. Because I mean, unless these kids are like doing it under the cover of darkness, which I don't see happening, because I mean their parents are very vocal about being upset about where their kids are playing and then pulling their kids out of a different school or whatever. So I mean, it's not as big of a problem as people lead you to believe it is. It's not. Yes, kids transfer, but no, it's not. Oh, I'm just leaving the league. That's not happening. So it's fear mongering basically. This new policy is basically inspired by fear mongering, and it sucks for the kids who and no, not every kid is going to be a Division I athlete. No, not every kid is going to play in college. No, not every kid is going to go play professional sports. I mean, we don't even have that many kids. I think we have maybe one or two major leaguers. We have 2 NBA players. We have a few NFL players. We don't have anybody in hockey as of yet. Shout out to Mark Eaton of Dickinson High School, the former Philadelphia Flyer from way back in the day. But yeah, at the same time, those kids and their parents should still be given the right to pursue the best situation for them. And if it's not at the school that they're at, so be it. But to put, conditions on how kids can move around and say that, oh, you can't transfer for athletics. Okay, so if a kid is like a straight A student at public school X, but public school X does not have the resources to get this kid on college tours, or, that they don't have the guidance counselors to shepherd off their information to different schools. Is this kid supposed to suffer because of that? If a kid, is shown an aptitude for, pre-med, but there's not a nursing program or a science program at his school, why make the kids suffer? And kids obviously transfer for academic reasons as well, not just athletic. So you're basically putting conditions on where kids can go and how far they can go with this policy. And I think it's ridiculous, honestly. It's not official yet because, DIA still has to submit something to the Board of Ed by April 15th. So in 2 weeks, we'll know for sure, or 3 weeks, excuse me. But if we're just going to start, locking kids into different positions, then you can't be mad when these kids aren't as great as they could be, because you're not giving them a chance to be great. And this isn't even from an athletic perspective. This is from an academic perspective as well. Because a kid could be a great athlete somewhere, but, but they need to be challenged academically. And some schools challenge other kids. Some schools challenge kids academically and others don't. Same thing with athletics. So why not let the kid take on a challenge? And putting conditions on it like, 30 days. I mean, if a kid transfers multiple places, then there could be an issue at hand. But if it's kids transferring one time, then I just feel like, okay, it's a bit extra. But that's just my opinion. But whatever you think, I would love to hear it. You can leave your opinion in the comments below. You can shoot us an email or follow us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. You're more than welcome to do so there. This episode was not meant to be 30 minutes long, but it's 30 minutes long. So let me go ahead and get off here so I can take a walk. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this edition of Holding Court. Greatly appreciate y'all's time as always. Once again, all the contact information, all the good stuff will be in the description below. Thank y'all for watching as always. And until we see each other in these gyms again, y'all take care of yourselves